Hello, for our sociology class, we were assigned a gender breach project. A gender breach is when you go out into the world and break a gender norm in front of a whole bunch of people in public with naive subjects. My name is Leah, and I use she, they pronouns.
My name is Caitlin, and I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Sierra, and I use she, her pronouns.
My name is Courtney, and I use she, her pronouns.
Our group conducted 2 gender breach exercises in order to better understand the gender norms of our society. The 2 exercises were the proposal and the catcalling. Our first hypothesis is that in modern societies, females are not permitted to propose to anyone. A sub-hypothesis of this exercise is that females are not allowed to be in non-heterosexual relationships, much less propose to another female. We expected that this exercise would create some negative responses, and maybe even some positive responses, due to the growing acceptance of LGBTQ+ people in today's society. Our second hypothesis is that it is looked down upon in modern society for a female to catcall a male, while it's perfectly okay for a male to catcall a female. We expected that this exercise would create many negative responses due to the social norms that are in place today in society.
So in this next section, I'm going to talk to you about the procedure that we use for our gender breach exercise. In order for our group to gain a greater understanding for how gender role norms work and play an active role in our society, we decided to conduct 2 gender breach exercises rather than 1. The first step to completing this gender breach exercise was to think of some gender norms surrounding women in our society. We specifically look at women in our group because we had an all-female group, so that's why we decided to look at the female gender norms in our society in particular. After a great deal of research and lengthy discussions, we decided that 2 of the most prevalent and powerful female gender norms in our society involve that only men should propose to women, and that it's only okay for men to catcall women. In turn, this means that, and alludes to the belief that it's not okay for women to propose, nor is it okay for women to catcall men. In both of these gender norms, it emphasizes the idea that women should be submissive human beings and allows males to take the dominant role and lead, while women should always wait to be approached. There's been a great deal of research done that's actually further proven this hypothesis. So further research suggests that even in college settings such as a club, that male and female interactions typically last longer and work out better when the male approaches the female. And in instances where this was reversed and the female approached the male, the interactions typically did not last as long, nor did they work out as well. So this means that the males typically, after one song or one dance, would move on to another partner rather than continuing to dance with the same female that asked them to dance in the first place. So moving back to our previously discussed examples, males proposing to women and males catcalling women, it was difficult for both me and my partners to think of any instances where we had seen a woman propose to someone else, and also it was difficult for us to think about a time when we've seen a woman actually catcall a man. This helped our group come to a unanimous conclusion and decide that as women we would develop 2 gender breach exercises. The first one being that we would have our group members propose to another group member. And then the second one would be that we decided that I myself would catcall a guy. So in the proposal exercise, it was very interesting to complete because it not only breaks a gender norm the way we have it set up, but it also breaks a heterosexual norm because normally we assume when proposing that a male should always propose to a female, and that it's not okay for homosexuals to be together, nor is it okay for them to propose to one another. So our plan for the first exercise was that we would conduct a proposal at an off-campus location and possibly be a restaurant where we knew that it would be pretty crowded. We also decided ahead of time that we would ask the staff at the restaurant if it was okay for us to do this gender breach exercise at their establishment. We did this as a precaution, basically, because we didn't want to get any negative reactions or overly positive reactions from the staff, i.e. being banned from the establishment or getting free food or publicity because of the proposal that we do. Rather than get the staff's reactions, we decided that we would focus on the bystanders' reactions. We did our actual gender breach activity at a location called Maxie B's in Greensboro, North Carolina, which is a bakery. First, we walked and into the establishment, and some of our group members decided to go ahead and buy food there. Upon doing so, one of our group members, Leah, explained the exercise to a staff member and asked their permission to conduct this exercise. So we then sat at a table and waited for the bakery to get crowded and to do the exercise once the staff members there had agreed that it would be fine for us to do this. When the place was crowded and there was a large line of people waiting to be served, Leah walked in front of Courtney at the table that we had been sitting at and used a cup that she had, an empty cup that she had been drinking out of previously, and dropped it so that she could get down on one knee. So Leah bent over like she was going to pick up the cup, and then remained on one knee to profess her love to Courtney. Leah spoke loudly, and quickly someone, one of the customers, shushed everyone in there so that they could hear this proposal that was about to take place. While professing her love, Leah explained that that her and Courtney's first date was awful and that nothing seemed to go right, but that it was not until they went to Maxie B's that they really started to hit it off. Now she went on by saying that they had been together 3 years and got to know each other really well and fell in love. After Leah continued to tell their story, she acted like she was about to tear up at the very end. Then she pulled out a ring out of her pocket and asked Courtney to marry her.
I brought you here today because after our first date, we came here, and it was a terrible first date. Because I don't know if you remember that tuba guy, but he absolutely ruined it. And so I want you to be here because this is where we finally had a good time together. And we've been together for like 3 years. I know it's a long time for me, and I've been on promotions, you've met my parents, I've met yours, you've accepted me for how I was, no matter what. So I really wanted to ask you if you would, will you marry me?
For our next gender breach experiment, we decided to ask one of my guy friends to help us out by letting us catcall him. We did this as a precaution in order to make sure that the person we catcalled didn't feel violated in any way, and also not to offend anyone. After explaining the project to my friend Austin, he said that he would be happy to help us out. I then came up with a phrase to catcall him by, and for those of you who may not be familiar with the term catcalling, what that basically means is when someone uses a phrase of typically a sexual nature and they shout it out to someone in public. And usually, like I said, this interaction is typically males doing that to females. However, the phrase that I came up with was this. Hey, white hat, you're looking very sexy today. I would let you use those hands to fix my car motor any day. So, okay, during our first attempt of this, it took place outside of the library at UNCG. I acted like I was talking to my girlfriends who happened to be my partners, and we were standing towards the side, while another group member had hidden a camera who was across from us. And we signaled Austin when we felt like there was a big enough group to get a reaction from. So as Austin begins to walk by, I catcalled him, saying the phrase that I said before, hey, white hat, you're looking sexy today. I would let you use those hands to fix my car motor any day. And his response to me was planned out, and he said, dang girl, you could at least buy me a drink first. However, it was really interesting because we got a response from one of the bystanders walking by, and it was all she could do not to just like be on the floor rolling, laughing. She really got a chuckle out of this experiment, and you could tell that she, you know, clearly thought it was not normal. However, during this, the video camera that we were using evidently died, so we didn't get to get a video of that. So as a result, we had to redo the experiment in front of the EUC at UNCG and use a phone to record the same procedure and responses of the bystanders.
For the reaction of our naive subjects, we started out with our catcalling experiment, where most of the reactions of these people were amused and shocked. There were some people who were laughing to themselves. There were some people who would just smile and keep going. There was one man in particular who was pretty disgusted with our group member and her comments. But for the most part, people thought it was funny and I think relatively harmless. We didn't explain to them why we were doing this, mostly because they were passers-by, so we didn't have the opportunity to stop them and ask what they thought of it. After we finished this project, we immediately got in the car to do a second experiment at Maxi B's as a proposal. So first, when we got there, we ordered cake, of course, and we asked the employees if they would let us do this experiment there, telling them that it wasn't real, telling them that it was just for a grade. So with their approval, we sat around and ate cake for a while, waited for the people who were currently there to clear out. And I was the one who was proposing to Courtney. So I had gotten up, pretended to drop my cup, and then started loudly announcing of why we were there. I got down on one knee and I made up a story about our relationship, and when I had officially gotten the whole room's attention, people started gasping and awing because it was so cute. And I got a couple of congratulations, and after Courtney had said yes, a few of them stopped me and wished me a happy life. One woman in particular put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Make yourself a happy life with her." But there was one man who was pretty disgusted with us. He sat in the back and he started shaking his head and making faces, and I'm pretty sure he left halfway through. And after we had sat down for a while, holding hands because we're now engaged, people kept asking jokingly if they could come to our wedding, or like when it was, could they be a bridesmaid. It was really cute. But we left pretty hastily because we did not have the heart to tell them that we were only there as a joke. So then we got in the car and we drove away, newly engaged.
In conclusion, both of these experiments sought to break the gender norms of women as passive and submissive counterparts to men. By actively catcalling men, women display a sense of agency that is not typically found to be socially acceptable. To be catcalled is to be forced into a submissive role, which strictly defies the rules of masculinity in Western culture. While our subject knew the catcalling was a social experiment, bystanders did not. Male witnesses to the catcalling displayed evident disgust towards Sierra, who was doing the catcalling, yet not towards Austin, despite his masculinity being the factor that was threatened in the situation. In line with our hypothesis, this likely stemmed from them sensing the disruption in the gender norm created by Sierra. Female passerbys, however, seemed both incredulous and amused to the situation itself. They appeared less threatened by the activity, perhaps due to the more prevalent feminist narratives about female empowerment. Within female group and witnesses, amusement more than aggression was a factor, and there was perhaps a feeling of safety in numbers and in kind. Variables to consider in the future include the fact that it was a white woman catcalling a white man. How race and stereotypes would affect the experiment itself are largely unknown. Whether a black man, for example, catcalling a white woman would have a different impact amongst passerbys. Additionally, both parties were well dressed, and there's a potential for a lower class situation contributing to different reactions as well. Lastly, the pairing itself was heterosexual, with the female catcalling a male. And the potential for the predatory gay stereotype, for example, if a gay or seemingly gay man were to catcall another man, may contribute to a different reaction from passerbys as well. The engagement scenario actively breached both gender roles and heteronormative expectations. We provided no clear indicators of masculine or feminine roles within the relationship we displayed via behavior or appearance. In nearly every media portrayal, men propose to women. The opposite is so rare that it's made a novelty in films such as Leap Year. This form inherently predisposes a marriage to the assumption that a man should lead and a woman should passively wait for him to propose, setting a guise of submission within the marriage itself. Our breach was well received, which surprised and challenged our hypothesis to a degree. Female bystanders were largely supportive and enthusiastic. They shushed one another in excitement during the breach itself, and may have perhaps stemmed from a societal view that a proposal is a woman's special moment and therefore should be respected rather than questioned in the moment itself. We only faced two seemingly negative reactions, one from a woman who seemed to ignore the situation altogether and actively left with her items, and another from a man who appeared exceptionally uncomfortable with the situation itself, though it's uncertain if this discomfort stemmed from the fact that it was an affectionate display, which men are generally not socially accepted to engage in, or if it was the fact that we were breaking a heterosexual norm as well and he didn't approve of that. We can't verify one way or another because we didn't ask the subject himself. In this situation, additional variables to consider include the fact that we had two white women proposing to one another and engaging in this false relationship. How lesbian relationships and gay relationships in general are viewed within different ethnic and racial minorities and communities vary and may have impacted the reactions of the people around us. Additionally, both subjects were middle class and relatively socially conforming in terms of appearance, which may have factored into how they were perceived and treated in the system itself. Within both breach experiments, we observed men to react more strongly and perhaps even more aggressively to the norms being broken, especially when they were related to dominance, which is typically classified as a masculine trait. Women seemed less likely to react in ways that were obvious or may cause confrontation, again, assuming that women are more submissive even in their reactions to a broken gender role. Here, we see gender roles at work even within the breaking of a gender role, in the reactions of the subjects themselves. In the context of these situations, our hypothesis that people would react negatively to women appearing as dominance in these situations seemed largely correct. However, further breaches addressing additional variables would be necessary to come to a singular conclusion.